am here with Dan Himmel, and he has built this lovely model right here. Dan, can you tell us about this model, the history of how you built it, and everything else about it?
Originally I started, it was the old MPC Ram Charger. It was the chassis, and I was going to just throw a quick aluminum body on it, which I built originally made of metal tooling aluminum, which I discovered that it was just too soft. And one day I was driving a lumber truck, and a bunch of aluminum flashing sheets started blowing out from under the seat. So I was like, well, this stuff almost killed me, so I'm going to take it home. And since then I've been building, I've used it constantly. The body from this is aluminum flashing, the other dragsters aluminum flashing. It's just totally took a 180, and it became a pretty advanced project. And then I decided that to be a proper junior fueler, it needed an Enderley fuel injection setup. And I couldn't find anything kit-wise, aftermarket-wise that was suitable. So I spent years trying to get those injector stacks built so I had a pair that was proper so I could cast them. And finally, after about 15 years, I finally came up with those, and that was the impetus to finally finish the car. The entire fuel system is scratch-built. The headers are scratch-built, they're brass. Body, the seat pan, that's all aluminum flashing. And I'd originally scratch-built front wheels, and they turned out to be a little weak, so I went ahead and bought a set of Kurt Rates' mini skirt.
I have 3 of those sitting waiting for me to use. Yeah.
So I bought a set of those for that and put them on there. They went right on. They're a great product, and they're the best looking aftermarket wheels I've seen. So
when did you finish this build? When did it first come out for everyone to see?
I finished it in 2018.
Because you did posts in Model Car Magazine form of this, didn't you?
Model Car Builder, Roy Sorensen's magazine, and made the cover of that. One of the last issues of that magazine that was out.
Now, this is a great, highly detailed model from what you stated, with all the actual metal being custom fabricated to your specifications, the engine being widely customized as well, and putting every little significant part of detail in there. What's the next model you want us to see?
This was originally, I started this in about 1997, and it was, the chassis is all brass. Originally, the main body panels were all the tooling aluminum, which again was too soft. So this past year or so, I went ahead and rebuilt all of those with aluminum flashing. The nose and tail are the original parts. They were tin, they're hammered, soldered tin. And so those are still original. Virtually everything except the tires on this thing is scratch built. Even the wheels, they're originally kit wheels, but I made molds of them and then drilled them out, did all kinds of work to them. These were cut down funny car wheels from the Polar Lights funny cars.
Yeah.
And because I really kind of wanted the Halabrand fronts, something to match the Halabrand rear wheels. So I spent a lot of time figuring out how to get those wheels together so they would be right. Because this dragster, I kind of had a vision for it ever since I started with it, and it's stayed fairly true to that vision. So.
And it's still a work in progress today.
It is, indeed. I hope to have it finished by the end of the year. I was hoping to have it finished by today, but.
Now, do you mind telling us your secret as to how you actually got that texture and that paint on that orange and black?
What I did was I shot everything with Brylon primer. Then I overshot it with that cheap Color Place Walmart gloss black spray. Then I used parafilm to mask it, because I was able to finish all of these panels in one day.
Wow.
Because I used the parafilm, and it doesn't stick much, but it seals well. So I was able to tape off all of these other panels, and then I went back through and I taped that off and shot, I mixed a brass and copper humbrol for the undercoat here. Taped that off, shot those over the top, and then I used a natural sponge, just a small piece of natural sponge that I dipped in black one shot, and that's what I did with the texture with. So
that's awesome. Do you have a name for the dragster?
No, not really. I put the Farney, Brown, and Himmel. It was Don Farney, who was a long time, he was one of the great modelers here for sure, and he was a longtime friend and mentor of mine. The Brown is Mark Brown, a guy in Texas. They both died the same year, about a month apart. So
how long ago did they pass?
It was in 2018, early 2018. So I just kind of wanted to do a tribute to them. The Nitronic Research decals, I made those because originally I was going to call it the Header Flame Special. And because it was the old Header Flames message board was what gave me the inspiration for it. So anyway, I ended up with those, and I was going to call it Hungry Like the Wolf, and the graphics I saw, they looked more suited to like a lowrider or a custom, and I was like, nah, that's not dragster stuff. So I went ahead and just went with the names on it, and that was that. But like I say, virtually everything on this thing is scratch built. So I mean, like, that might have come out of a kit, but it's pretty modified. And
it's a beautiful model, and even though it's been a work in progress for almost 30 years, I think 25 and counting, it actually won Best of Show just because of the detail you put into it now. It's going to be great to see what it actually looks like finished.
Well, it shouldn't be long. I'm getting close to being able to permanently mount the body and the wheels, and then I figure once that's done, then all I got to do is build up the rest of the fuel system on top. So.
Out of 100%, where do you feel that you're actually at as far as completion on this model?
Probably right around 90.
90, okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm pretty much almost down to where all I got to do is finish the fuel system up top now. So, I mean, this will come apart and I'll clean some stuff up. But
it's a beautiful model. I'll definitely be ringing your ear through Messenger. Right. I know when we spoke last year, you started showing me some of the blueprints of the junior one.
Yeah.
And also pictures of it as you built it, which helped me greatly start my edition of using brass in building.
Yeah, it's great.
That.
I mean, I was telling Randy over there a while ago that about 3 weeks ago I was looking at it and I dropped it from above my workbench straight to the floor, and one of these came loose, and there was one of the valve covers and cylinder heads was loose, and I think this came loose out of the chassis. Everything else was perfectly intact. I was like, thank goodness for brass. Okay, now both of these models were monogram kits, which, you know, basically have a reputation as being very basic kits, and I start playing with them, and I intend to start out with them to be simple models, and this is what I end up with.
Some of us can't build box stock, you know?
No, you just can't. I mean, no, it doesn't happen. I mean, it's just because I go into one, I've got a vision for what I want, and you know, if the kit's not there, then I've got to make it there. Basically, the only main component that's not scratch built is the body itself. I mean, the chassis is out of the kit, but I added so many different tubes and things to it. I think I changed the roll cage. The wing is built from aluminum flashing again. This was a fun little detail, the little Coke can I made for the overflow. And I printed my own decals for all the markings here and for the Coke can.
Now for the decals, did you use the tester's white sheet and print on an inkjet?
I've been using Blingasm. I found it on eBay, and it's worked really well for me. They have both clear and white.
Do you seal your decals over before you put it on there at all?
Yeah, I'll clear coat them first, and then I'll apply them, and then if I put anything over after, usually it's just future, yeah. So many guys take their race cars and they bury the decals in clear, and I'm going, that's not the way they are. All the contingency decals should be on top of clear, I mean, because they're applied afterwards, so.
Stickers and all.
Yeah, exactly. The headers here are scratch built. This entire induction system is from the fuel pump, I scratch built the manifold, the injector, the dash is aluminum. It's got aluminum interior panels, the seat. This one here, the main thing on this, it's got a lot of scratch built parts. I mean, I did a lot of work on the interior and obviously on the engine and things. Main thing on this one that I'm proudest of are the louvers in the hood. I hand formed the hood, but before I did that, I marked out the louvers, and I used my Dremel drill press and set it up so that I took a 1/4-inch chisel, turned the tang down on it so it fit up inside the Dremel drill press. Then I drilled it, put a 1032 set screw in there to hold it in place, and I just marked it out, and I was just able to go right down the line and punch those louvers. That was the main part of this build for me, is I've been trying for years to make louvers, and I finally found a 1/4-inch wood chisel, and I go, you know what? This will make louvers.
Now, when you were forming that, did you use some sort of a wood block that had the actual form to it?
I just carved like a buck. You know, this is real basic shape. So I just carved a buck. I annealed the aluminum. The way I read to do that, and it's worked well, is just take ivory soap. Well, the aluminum flashing comes with a plastic coating on it, so you got to sand that off, which is a pain in the ass, but it's got to be done. So you sand the plastic coating off, then you just take a bar of ivory soap and rub it over it. Heat it with a torch, and as soon as the ivory soap flashes black, quench it. And it's good to go. Well, you'll have to do it again, but at some point.
Of the engine that's in this, it's in the black one, how much of it is actual kit engine?
Basically the block.
The block and that's it? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much everything else. All the add-ons were that's all scratch-built stuff. I built all 3 sections of the hood are aluminum. I scratch-built the piano hinge with just 1/32 inch brass tubing and brass sheet. Just soldered them together and then cut them just so they'd fit together. And it works pretty nicely.
Do builds like these typically take you a couple years to complete, or?
Oh yeah. Most of this stuff I finished in the last few years is stuff that I'd started 15, 20 years
Decades
before,
ago.
and I had a spell where I wasn't building much for various reasons, but.
Well, I'm glad to see them get built and you see them through.
Yes, me too. I've had kind of a change that way because I used to jump around a lot, and once I got really, I never left the hobby, but there was a part where I kind of lost my muse, and I'd go and fool around with stuff, but never just get immersed in it. And the last 7 years, I've gotten myself back into it, and I've managed to be able to remain focused on the stuff that I'm working on and getting it finished. So,
well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you showing me the 4 models that you've built over the course since the 90s.
Yeah.
And finally seeing them through, and the one being pretty close to complete at 90%. Meeting you a couple years back at Colpar, it was amazing to see the detail and talking to you about it, and I felt that the world should definitely be able to see your creativity and how you are scratch building your models here locally in Colorado. Hopefully more people will come to our show here at the Mile High Open and also other shows in Colorado and be able to see your work firsthand as well.
I hope this goes. I think this is one of the coolest ideas for a contest I've ever seen. That's awesome. There's other stuff for people to do and plenty of places to sit. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and to be here. It's great.